For a second, I was a little concerned that I was not going to enjoy this book. We're going to read Alchemised. I think I need to stop. Necromancy? There are literally no rules. Yeah. That line. Okay, so we are in fact going to be reading Alchemised by senlinyu. Do you have words to say? She saw me go through first time and she's not excited for me to relive this. I don't know how I feel about it, truthfully. This is an 1,000-page monstrosity. It is based off of an original fanfic, which I believe in the back here it says she had over 20 million downloads. Holy smokes, that's a lot of downloads. I have in fact read it and done a vlog on it. The original fic truly changed my life. Yeah, so I have potentially too high hopes. I don't know, but we're excited and we're gonna read this today. So come with me as we get into reading Alchemised. So we are in fact going to go to the cafe to start reading because I just feel like this is the kind of read I need emotional support for in public, so I don't start crying immediately. Okay, so we are I'm about 20 pages in, and sorry, right off the bat, I think coming into this, you have to be really mindful that this is not the original fic. The thing that I love the most about the original fic was how many questions you had right off the bat. And I think one of the things I love about fanfiction in general is there's like, it kind of breaks the pattern of narrative storytelling. Like sometimes they don't adhere to all the rules, and I think that's what I like about it. And I think that's what I really liked about the original fic, that it opened with so much empty space, and I think maybe it could do that because we already had backstory, I guess, but because we don't have the backstory for this, there's been a bit of like bringing everyone up to speed. Like we have a lot of not info dumping, but like I just know a lot about this world 20 pages in, and I feel like maybe I could have waited a little bit to have a few more of those answered a little later, but I'm also saying that this is a huge book and we're going to cover a lot of ground. So anyway, that's my thoughts. 20 pages in, let's keep going. So very fun fact, I did in fact order a Waterstones edition of this book that I did in fact forget to cancel when I ordered the other one, because I ordered this one first and then I sold the other one. I am going to be returning this, but just because you might want to see different editions, I am going to show you the Waterstones edition as well. I really hope I don't change my mind, because I can't have multiple copies of a book that I have not yet read and don't know if I will like. So let's see. Let's open it. Wow. Comparison. That's insane. Alrighty, recap time. I got 50 pages in today and I think I need to stop. It is hard reading a published version of something that you already had very little notes for. I think maybe I'm not in the right headspace for this, so I'm going to bench it for today. We're going to come back with some fresh eyes. I might even just literally start from the beginning again and try and come at it with the lens of the previous fic taken off.
quick little note from future me. I did in fact start this vlog with the full intention to not compare these two works, but I indeed did fail. I honestly could not stop comparing them, and so alas. If you plan to read Manacled and you want to go into Manacled completely blind, I actually have a spoiler-free Manacled video that you could probably watch, but I would not watch this. Food for thought. Feel free to yeah, I don't want you to ruin anything for yourself if you read Alchemised and you're like, actually no, I want to read the fic for whatever reason. Yeah, proceed with caution if you do want to read Manacled, and yeah, back to it. See if I can come at it again. But we'll be back and I will be continuing to read The Beast of Alchemist. This was a very unexpected surprise, but I just got this in the mail, and that is indeed the September adult pick for Fairy Loot, which, if I'm not mistaken, should be Alchemised. It is excessive. I don't think I've ever owned more than one copy of a book, except for, you know, like if I find it at a secondhand store. That's kind of the vibes, honestly. Oh, I'm nervous. Ooh. Interesting. They've gone a completely new direction. Probably by the time you're going to see this, it's going to be all over the internet. But whoa. Sorry. I'm marveling all by myself. These are the side edges. Oh, it's pretty. Whoa. Okay. This is the front. And then it does have the reverse dust jacket. Yeah, wow. That's pretty insane. That's pretty insane. Boom. So yeah, that's all of the editions of the book that I really am struggling to get into. I will be back to report when I've read a little bit more. Okay, well, it's time for an update. I am 150 pages in. I have some qualms, but first we're going to go through what's been happening. So I wrote notes because, it's because I genuinely have been having trouble keeping up. But essentially in this world, you know, we've got Helena. She wakes up in this tank of sensory deprivation. She is trying to understand what happened, but basically she just woke up after like 14 months of being in sensory deprivation. But she wasn't like fully asleep like everyone else was. She was kind of like kept low key awake. And her powers, her resonance powers, her alchemy resonance powers were like keeping her healthy, essentially, so she didn't die. Helena, our main character, is from the good side, which is this like religious side of people who use alchemy. And you have like alchemists have this thing called resonance, was their kind of like powers, in which they can transmute, manipulate different metals depending on the type of resonance you have, I think. So not everyone can manipulate every metal. That's my understanding so far. And then you've got the other guys, which are like the bad guys, which are the Vivimancers and the Necromancers. So the Vivimancers are those that can manipulate living organic matter. And then you got the Necromancers who can manipulate dead organic matter. So like the dead people. This group of people is led by this guy named Moreau. And Moreau essentially was like, alchemy is too religious, we want science. And so he's come in, and that was what the war was about. As part of his crew, they have this thing called the Undying, which essentially Moreau has come up with a way to extend human life, which is by putting the living soul into a dead body. And that's how, like, giving these people eternal life, essentially, through doing that. And they are called the Undying, or the alchemists call them liches. Helena was, after being woken up, she was in hospital for like a long time. And they just were like, had her there, and I didn't really know what we were doing. And she kind of like came across a few different people that she knew from the past. And then they were like, you have memories that we need to get into. So we need to do this thing called transference, which is like embedding the soul of a Vivimancer, or a Vivimancer imparting their soul onto you. I don't truly understand what this person is doing in her brain, but apparently it's very taxing and it's very hard. So she goes and lives with this guy called the High Reeve, who happens to be this guy Kane Ferrin. Kane Ferrin was her academic rival in school, and so now she's living in his house to do this like regular transference thing so that they can unlock her memories. Yeah, she's just like hanging around in this house for no real reason. So I'm having trouble with that. And I have looked on some Reddit threads, and it does in fact head in the same direction as Manacled. So yeah, we're heading where we think we're heading. Yeah, I think those are all my notes. Okay, so we are officially 250 pages in. We are making progress, finally. I have so many feelings. I think I'm nearing the end of the part 1. Yeah, okay. I'm just like I'm like 20 pages off of part 2. I have so many thoughts. It's like gonna explode out of me. I really don't know where to begin. Number 1 is the more and more I read, the more I realize that I didn't actually understand what transference was. Like they kept doing it. So as time's progressed, she's been living in this house and like kind of just like going about her life, but they do these like transference sessions once a month, which I have qualms why she's having to live with him, even though she's someone of like not very high importance. But they need her memories and she has to live in the house. It's not like he could just like go to the hospital to do the transference. I really don't understand that. Anyway, it occurred to me I really had no idea what this transference was. So I've gone back and I don't know if I have explained it, so I'm going to explain it now. You're to perform the temporary transference method upon her as frequently as possible, even though they do it once a month, to achieve singularity without extinguishing her soul, in order to align his powers with her powers, or her resonance, maybe like aligning their resonance, because it's all about resonance. So maybe like her internal vibration, I guess you could call it. And then he wants to align his vibration with her vibration so that he can get into the locked memories. He's trying to become the key to open the door to her mind. And I'm explaining this because if I'm having confusion, I guarantee someone else out there is like, what is happening? So hopefully we'll figure it out together. Anyway, we're in the house. There's balls happening. She goes on walks with Farron. He reads the paper. She asks for the paper and he just like gives it to her. He's like, sure. And so she starts reading the paper, and in the paper she's seeing that there's a lot of promise for this like breeding program, essentially to help recover the lost resonance or the specialty alchemists or things like that from the war. Honestly, it reads like sensitivity readers were given the original manuscript transmuted, and sensitivity readers were like, no, that's way too uncomfortable to read. And so they were like, okay, cool. How do we keep all the things we need to keep, but push that back so at least, you develop a bond between Helena and Farron in that interim, and you get to see the good parts of him, I guess, first. So therefore you're like watching him being like, oh, I see the good and the bad before like anything chaotic happens, which as someone who has read both, I find it really challenging, because what I loved about Manacled, even though it was incredibly hard to read, like quite disturbing, and I logically I understand that this is the better choice. I understand that this is the more digestible option, but you lose so much of the tension. And I don't mean sexual tension, I mean tension in that she is walking around this house with a abuser, and she is seeing him be nice in amongst him doing cruel and horrible things. Whereas in this, it feels very like disassociative, like every cruel and horrible thing is just something she's heard about or like feels secondhand, because she's also missing like most of her memories. And like he hasn't done anything cruel to her other than the transference thing, in which he's being quite nice about it, to be honest. Like, it's very disassociated, everything is very distanced, and it feels very at arm's length, whereas in Manacled, it was very in your face. It was so incredibly complex. I was forced to reckon with some really incredible like nuance that I had not ever experienced in a book before. And I know that the fic is not a book, but I don't know, it just emotionally hits in a completely different way, and I just feel very like disassociated from it as I'm reading. So yeah, I think that's where I stand right now. The positives is senlinyu is doing a very good job at building a very rich world. Oh, and I just realized why there's like two moons on the side there, if you can see. You've got the Lumithia and Luna, and it ties in with their like religion, which I thought was pretty cool. So like Luna is like the mother, whereas Lumithia is like the maiden, and it's tied up with like virginity and like the way that they then can pursue their academics. It's very interesting. My god, this is going to be such a long video. I'm so sorry. Buckle in, because we are only 250 pages in. Okay. Okay, so you know how before I was talking about the moons being like quite a prominent part of the story? I just read this and I thought it was really fascinating, and it captures it perfectly. Lumithia had reached full ascendance. The world outside lay cast in silver amongst bright as day, radiating light from amid a black sky, every star and planet erased. Luna, halfway across the sky, looked like a broken piece of pottery in contrast. When she was in ascendance, it had an intense effect on the alchemists. For those with low resonance, ascendance was the only time of year where they could transmute, while alchemists with strong abilities found themselves disorientated by her radiance. Moon drunk, people called it. So interesting. Alrighty, it's official. We've passed halfway and we're into it. We're finally getting into the vibe, thank God, because I was a little bit worried there for a second. I was a little concerned that in fact I was not going to enjoy this book, and it made me really sad. But no, alas, we're good. All is well. Part one, I still stand by. I really, truly do not know what happened there. As soon as I've crossed over into part two though, everything is just clicking. It feels good. The characterization is on point. Like, not even just relative to the original fic, but just like standing on its own two legs. The characters have depth. They each are like, all the decisions they're kind of making make sense. And oh, I love him. I know that he is a tortured little shit show, but in fact I do love him. I will stand by that. As shitty and up that he is, she is worse. She is worse tenfold, okay? Because hear me out, we just had a chapter. It was literally last night, actually. I just finished this. The last sentence that I read was there's a scene where he's like falling apart. For the first time, Cain Ferrum was fully human to her. She slipped through his walls and peeled away the defensive layers of malice, cruelty, and found that there he carried a broken heart. She could use that. Like, bitch. So anyway, that's how it's going. There are some differing elements, enough that it's tweaked the ending for me. Like, so I'm genuinely reading being like, what does happen. So that's fun. I feel like we're locked in. I'm gonna get some solid reading in today, I think. We're gonna get back into it. Yeah, let's do it. Is it actual crawling, or is there something more constructive I had in mind? Oh god. I'd have to ask. Well, shit has indeed hit the fan. Well, that is not what you want. Not gonna lie, the world that senlinyu has created with like the necromancy and the gore and the vivimancy and the alchemy, it makes for a very fun fight scene. Like with fantasy, you don't have to play by the rules, right? But when you have necromancy added into the fantasy elements, there are literally no rules. You do what the fuck you want. Like, oh god. Ah. Oh. No, that's not what I think it is. Oh, it is what I think it is. Gross. Is it? Oh, is he? Hold on. Gross! It was him. He's down there. Well done. Okay, so this chapter is stressing me out. I think I need to change of location, so I'm going to get changed. We're gonna go to the cafe or the park, or maybe both. I don't know. Haven't decided yet. But alas, we need a change of location. So I went on my walk yesterday and I continued to listen. I've continued to read. We are currently at 796. We're almost at 800. We've got 200 pages to go. I was wondering how we were going to go and do this. I don't know. I don't know. But it's not good. It's not good. Alright, well, I have officially reached the point of the story where everything just feels a little bit numb. So that's fun. Yeah. It's really interesting having like read Manacled and going through this. You would think that it wouldn't hit the same, but indeed. senlinyu is doing just some pretty incredible stuff. Like, it is truly like a meditation on the choices people make in war. Wow.
to read, Maya. Okay. My goodness.
To know that this book was inspired by, or is rooted in, World War II and the eugenics that happened there really just hits a little different when you read passages here. And it makes me like sit and think like, oh, how much do I know about World War II? You know, like what happened during that time. It's like most of the focus was on forced labor and the outpost and the mines and the malnutrition among the surviving civilian population. That's pretty familiar. That's what we get taught. What else happened, you know? And then just here, this last bit here. It was a stain upon the northern identity that such atrocities had happened, or that had occurred. And so it was treated as some evil and twisted idea that had sprung from the Undying's regime, as if selective breeding had not been long rooted in guild culture. Like, that, yeah, you know, just right in there, yeah. No, there would be convents for the mothers and for the children, an orphanage where they could grow up and become productive members of society, and so it could all be forgotten. Oof. That line. Alrighty, that's... that is the end of Alchemised. I need a sec before we discuss. Okay, overall wrap up of this book. This is a pretty strong fantasy. I think it has such a cool magic system. I honestly felt like it was almost too detailed to the point that I finished and I really still don't know half of it. I feel like I could reread and get more out of it, which to me is a good thing. I love authors who leave little gems for us to reread and discover more through a second reread. So I like that. And I think the necromancy, like it was all really cool. It worked for me, and senlinyu did such a fantastic job with that component. Part 2 was strong. I felt so deeply connected to the characters. I felt like everything was on point. There was good pacing. I felt like there was good pacing, but the spaces in between the action was purposeful and intentional, and like I felt like there was space being held for the deep emotions we were being guided through feeling, and I loved that. I really loved part 2. I guess you could call that the past timeline, because we go from present back to past back to present. The present timeline fell a little short for me. I felt like it was just missing a few, like we didn't get the depth of the character. Like everything just felt a little surface. It felt like we just didn't go as deep, and I wanted that. I wanted to know these people in the present. I wanted to know who they become, because to me that's what this story is truly all about, like really understanding the impact and the repercussions of those past actions. And so I was a little bit sad to see that Manacled versus Alchemised. Is there one that's better? I don't think so. Honestly, I think in my brain it's not like that. It's not like, it's not like, oh, Manacled did it better. I think if you don't have a background in HP and Hermione and you're not a big fanfic reader, I would say this is great. Like, there are so many story beats in this that are fundamentally the same, that you get the essence of the foundations of that story. If you read Manacled and you're watching this to be like, ooh, should I read Alchemised? I don't know. It's a toughie. I think they are in essence, and senlinyu has already talked about this, they decided to publish under their pseudonym senlinyu, not their name in real life, but decided to continue with that name for the sole reason that they didn't want anyone to be confused about plagiarism. They didn't want someone to think that, oh, this person's stolen senlinyu's work. So that was the reasoning behind that. There are structural and thematic things that are just the bones of these stories. The bones, very symbolic. The bones of these stories are truly identical. They have the same skeleton. They've had a little bit of reconstructive surgery. To me, the fact that senlinyu was going to publish a book, I was going to buy it because the original fic was life-changing, and I do still think that the story element in this is phenomenal, and I think the reason I would say to read it is to get a better sense of their skill as a writer to come up with their own unique magic system. And I truly believe that we're going to see some great things from senlinyu, and we all knew it who have been reading their fanfics. I'm not going to lie, I absolutely started reading another fanfic of theirs last night, so come down the rabbit hole with me. And look, at the end of the day, to be re-immersed in that world with this like whole new layer of like fantasy, like a whole new fantasy world, was really fun, and I did really enjoy myself. It didn't hit emotionally for me without, for me, what felt like extra nuance because, you know, for sensitivity reasons. Anyway, that is Alchemised wrapped. I would love to know if you have read Manacled, if you're planning to read Alchemised, or if you've already read it, if you felt the same, if you like noticed any gaps in tension, because I've had other people say that they didn't feel that way. Yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts. Anyway, that is it for me for today. That's a wrap on Alchemised. If you have enjoyed this, thank you for watching. I hope you stick around a while. Most importantly, happy reading, and I will see you in the next one.